What's up, everybody? This is Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm Ryan, joined as always by Andrew.
Hello.
And Steven.
Hi there.
And on today's episode, we're doing another 007 doubleheader.
Kicking off the new year.
Yeah. We're looking at
Started right.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service and The Living Daylights.
So that's George Lazenby and Timothy Dalton.
Timothy Dalton. What a dreamboat, yeah?
Oh, man.
Oh, man, that cleft chin.
Wow.
I can't wait to talk about Timothy Dalton.
Yeah. But before we get into that, we have a special announcement. January is our first Patreon Picks episode. So that means if you support us at the $1 tier or higher on Patreon, you can vote on an episode, a movie that we will review in an episode. And patrons will get access to that episode.
Early access, yeah.
Early access to that episode. So for the whole month of January, supporting us for $1, you can get in there and vote. There's a lot of good stuff in there. And then in February, we'll record the episode, and the patrons, again, will get early access to that episode. So,
and then eventually it will be released into the feed.
One day, the commoners on the regular feed will be able to listen to it. But the patrons, the founders, the ones who were there at ground zero.
The people who are giving us money.
Yes, the ones that voted and used their $1 to support us.
Basically, the people that are giving us money.
Yes.
Yeah.
It means you will get to have a say in what will be coming out in future episodes.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
It's a lot of power.
Use it wisely.
With that
we are
$1.
giving them too much power,
We're
Ryan.
giving you
For
a lot of
$1.
power. So all through January, get in there and vote. Check us out. Patreon.com/Spoilers Intended Podcast. All right. Now, Steven, what is a 007 doubleheader?
All right. For everyone out there who may not be aware, the 007 doubleheaders, we take a look at typically the two highest rated Bond movies, according to IMDb, for each actor that has played James Bond.
Yeah.
So the format on this is going to be a little different. We're not doing the same.
We're not breaking it down. Spectacle, performance, score, plot.
Exactly. And heads up now, there's no spoiler wall on these either. These films are all pretty. We're still in an era that's pretty old.
They're almost 40 years old for the second
87
one.
is not quite there, but it's getting there.
It's getting there.
So this is all kind of leading up to a very special Patreon bonus episode where we are going to go in and rank all the actors that have played James Bond. And I can almost guarantee that is going to be a contentious episode.
I can guarantee it's going to be a contentious episode.
We will likely come to blows.
Yeah, I'm going to watch and love it.
But picking a favorite Bond is going to be
it's difficult.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's very hard.
Although for this episode, we actually ended up deciding to review just one George Lazenby movie and one Timothy Dalton movie.
Yeah.
Since they both had a really short stint as Bond, there's not the same library to work with when you're talking about like Connery or Moore.
Yeah, and it's not fair to give the entire library of Timothy Dalton, which is only 2 films, one full episode, and then Lazenby just gets a half an episode.
Like a 35-minute
or
episode.
nothing.
Or nothing.
Yeah.
So we decided to split the difference.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it is fair to give him nothing after the people's opinion of him who worked with him.
Did you know?
Bond fact.
It was reported by the press at the time that George Lazenby and Diana Rigg did not get along on set. Apparently, she ate garlic before they had their kissing scenes, so it did not taste good.
That is
Joke's on her. He loves garlic.
Amazing, actually. I love that.
There is a little bit of some discerning ideas there, though, that he did say that they was mostly joking, and the press kind of ran with it.
Gotcha.
But there are a lot of like.
But did she pick up a clove of garlic like an apple and
just
start
like take a bite out of it?
There's a lot of, I need context.
Was it at least roasted garlic?
Yeah.
Like just raw garlic?
I don't know.
Still in the clove, just goes straight through the crunchy bits.
Diana ate garlic before she kissed 007 to imply that they were not getting along. Rigg later admitted that she found Lazenby immature, but expressed sympathy for his situation.
What does that mean?
What does that even mean?
I will get into more Bond facts.
Oh, wow.
In this episode.
Yeah, we're loaded up with trivia.
Cool.
I have 4 pages of Lazenby related incidents on
this
set.
guy
Say
only
fan fiction.
This guy. Oh no. That's Timothy Dalton. This guy only did one movie.
Andrew's like only 4 for Timothy Dalton. I would have several more pages of fan fiction. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me.
All right, well let's get into a plot summary of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So basically, let's see here. James Bond woos a mob boss's daughter and goes undercover to uncover the true reason for Ernst Stavro Blofeld's allergy research in the Swiss Alps involving beautiful women from around the world.
Oh.
Now, this movie was released in 1969.
This is an old one.
Yeah.
So this was the turn of the counterculture into the disco era.
Yes. Yeah, right around that time. Directed by Peter R. Hunt. I've never heard of that guy. Not sure what else he did.
That's what IMDb is for. I guess I will take a quick stroll.
That's Steven's problem.
That's a Steven issue.
Come on now.
It's starring, obviously, George Lazenby as James Bond, Diana Rigg as Tracy, and Telly Savalas, Kojak himself, as Blofeld.
Which was such a weird choice.
In a very strange casting decision, as what Ryan would call it. Now, I guess 69, that may have been before Kojak was on TV. I think Kojak was in the 70s.
I think that did predate Kojak.
Yeah. So, like, for audiences at the time, they were like, hey, it's Kojak. Where's his sucker? I don't understand. But still a weird choice for Blofeld to me, like, given his performance.
It's a weird choice for George Lazenby as well, because he wasn't an actor.
Oh, really?
George Lazenby was a former car salesman turned male model whose sole acting experience was adverts for Fry's chocolate. And he was chosen to play James Bond. Now, however, there is a little bit more of an asterisk here. He was in the Australian Army Special Forces, and he is the only other Bond actor to have ever played, or basically been in the films, besides Christopher Lee, who played the bad guy in
Man with the Golden
Gun.
Yeah.
To have spec ops background for his personal life. However, George Lazenby was also taught martial arts by Bruce Lee.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So he does, and it shows in the film too. He definitely has a martial arts and combat background.
Yeah,
it definitely shows in the action.
You can see a big difference in the fight scenes between like a Connery movie and this one.
I don't know if I'm prepared to say that or not. There's a lot of quick cuts in these.
There's definitely a lot of sped up footage, but just generally, it looks like he's conducting himself more than just fair enough. Fake judo chop and a roll.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Connery's action doesn't even really count.
No.
Right. So the closest analog you're going to have is going to be Roger Moore.
What's interesting, though, is that this movie is smack dab in the middle of Connery in a way, like towards the end, because Connery left Bond.
Yeah.
They, got Lazenby. Lazenby or Lazenby?
Lazenby.
They tap him. He does this movie, and then go right back to Connery.
He had a 7-film contract.
Yes,
wow.
and he was so ostracized by the production of the first one because he is a very hard person to work with in the nicest way to say this possible.
Yeah.
Harry Saltzman made a mistake of telling Lazenby, "You're a star now, so act like one," and he took that and ran with it.
Tell someone that.
Why, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are you encouraging here?
So
don't be humble.
That was the beginning of the production, and that just bloated his ego so much that he acted like he was Sean Connery on set in the sense of
without being Sean Connery.
Without being Sean Connery.
He's just the fried chocolate guy.
Yeah, this was his first real acting gig.
So speaking of their first real gig here, Peter Hunt, this is his directorial debut.
Oh, wow.
He went on to direct such fantastically well-known movies as Gold, Shout at the Devil, one of the many versions of Gulliver's Travels.
He directed a Motley Crue song. That's awesome.
I know, right? The Beasts Are on the Streets, Death Hunt. I'm a particular fan of this one. Wild Geese 2.
What?
Oh, gosh.
Was there a Wild Geese 1?
I hope there wasn't, actually.
I mean, there wasn't a Trolls 1.
Yes, there was.
Yes,
well,
there was.
no, but it was not. It's not related to Trolls 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's a different thing.
That's a different thing.
So you say Geese 2 would just come out of the ether. Geese 2.
It's Wild Geese.
Wild Geese.
So,
get it right.
Sir.
Not a lot is what you're saying. Okay.
I don't recognize. He has 15 credits as a director, and some of those are for TV shows. I don't recognize any of it.
Gotcha.
So,
okay. Well, what did you guys think of On Her Majesty's Secret Service?
So
this is the first time I've seen it, by the way.
Okay.
So,
So
really? Wow.
I've seen this film a decent amount of times.
Mhm.
I actually think it's one of the better Bond films
this is okay.
of the era.
I'm not.
Okay.
Well, you put the era tag on there, and I feel like that's cheating. So I think this is one of the better.
You just got called out.
Hold on. This is one of the better Bond stories. Period. I just think that this was filmed in too early an era. And with someone who wasn't really up to all of the emotional underpinnings that go on in this. Because, can you imagine this script, essentially, this plot, and you have like Daniel Craig in here, or Brosnan, or I don't know, Timothy Dalton.
Timothy Dalton.
Right. This would have been a phenomenal movie, especially if we're talking
especially at the end of the film.
87 instead of 69. Right. Yeah, the payoff at the end here, like that emotional hit, because it's basically the most emotion we get out of a Bond, just in terms of the story.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a missed opportunity. They shot this bullet way too early with the wrong person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've never seen the film.
Prior to this. You've seen it for this review.
Yeah.
Sorry. I
have seen it for the review. Prior to this is my first time seeing it.
Yeah.
I remember catching like glimpses of it on, Bond marathons when they'd be on TV and stuff, but I never watched more than like a minute or two, This might be one of my least favorite Bond movies of all time.
Oh, wow.
I did not care for this movie on almost any level.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was fine, but like I didn't like the plot that much. It was extremely convoluted. I
love the plot.
I like it's not that it's like, any more or less convoluted, I guess, than any other Bond story, like at the end of the day. It was just that like I never bought into the romance between him and his wife. So
if they're out there eating whole cloves of garlic before they kiss, the chemistry probably just wasn't there.
But even beyond that, like in this context of the story, like in my head, because I always saw, the Bonds that came after this where he visits like his wife's grave and stuff like that. I always assumed, man, if there's a lady that can like snag James Bond, like it must be a crazy love story.
Yeah.
I guess in my head, that's what I had pictured. This is like her father's basically trying to force this marriage to happen. James is just using her to get to something. When he's on assignment, he sleeps with 3 other women and then comes back and gets married
about
immediately.
That one where he's just like, heck yeah.
Well, at one point when they were in the barn, and he acts like, we shouldn't mess around, and then they do. I was like, no kidding. You're spent. You've had 3 women in the past like 24 hours, dude. You're not a marathon runner.
I gotta say, man, like that whole bit where he's just like horn dogging it around the halls of the dormitory. Just like, man, like what is going on here? This is most of the time when you see a Bond film, right? He doesn't really pursue. It's more just like
they just attract.
They fall in his lap, and he's like, well, yeah, I'm here. So seeing him like jerry-rigging away to open the doors to go hit on these women was just like, what is going on?
What is this?
It was 1969.
It was weird.
And that is the counter, it's just that time period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I agree that like the story, if you tweak some of it, could be a very good story.
You don't one-to-one it for a modern film, but if you take the core concepts of what they're doing here, I think you could nowadays film a phenomenal Bond film.
Absolutely.
With the same story.
Yeah.
Well, or a similar story.
Well, it's pretty close. You just tweak it a little bit.
At the end, when his wife dies, it is like, it's not done super well in this movie, but I still felt like, oh man.
Oh yeah, it still hits.
Well,
and it's
like
coming.
When he's like, she's fine, she's just resting. It's like, oh, that's sad. Oh.
Well, and then it just end credit roll.
It's just and over. And even the death, it's like the wedding happens and they're driving, and then you just see Telly Savalas in a neck brace go kabowie, and then they keep driving. You're like, it felt very like tacked on and fast. You know what I mean? Like whereas that should have been like developed
a
to
15-minute scene. Yeah, there should have been more going there.
So the girl that actually fired the gun, because Blofeld was driving the car.
Oh yeah,
Irma Bunt was
get it right.
Isai's Stapats.
Bless you again.
This was her only English language role that she played, and unfortunately, she died shortly after.
Oh, that's sad, because I was going to say she was pretty good as the right hand hench lady.
Yeah. She's very similar to the one from Russia with Love.
Yeah, it reminded me immediately of her.
Yeah,
Blofeld's got a type.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought she did a really good job, and it's unfortunate that like this was probably one of her last roles.
Yeah.
Or was her last role. I couldn't find information on that. But yeah, I mean, like according to George Lazenby, this is just on topic of the last scene. For the first take filming Tracy's death scene, Diana Rigg was biting him on the leg.
What?
In order to help him produce tears. However,
man, that's some helpful acting right there. Let me tell you.
However, the director wanted the scene without tears and put a stop to this.
You two cut it out in there. Too much emotion.
So the big thing here is that we already mentioned George
That's still amazing.
Lazenby was not he's not quotation marks an actor, right? He's not a traditionally trained guy, and this was his first like real role. Yeah. And when he came on, the director was not interested in coaching him at all.
Oh, okay.
He was ready. They actually hated each other on set. Whenever they weren't shooting a scene, if there was a conversation that had to be done with him, it would either be at the scene where George Lazenby was surrounded by other people, or they just would not talk.
Man, you weren't kidding about there. This is just a rough production all around.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'd quit too.
Yeah. Let's see. Lazenby claimed that he got along with everyone except for director Peter R. Hunt. He claimed that he didn't receive any coaching despite his inexperience, and that Hunt asked the rest of the crew to keep a distance from him, as Peter thought the more I was alone, the better I would be at James Bond. Their relationship got off to a bad start when on the first day when Lazenby was asked by a crew member to clear the set with a loudspeaker. I don't understand why that would be. Maybe it was in his ear. I don't know.
Maybe.
Those ushered off the set were friends of Hunt. A furious Hunt said, "Don't forget who got you this job. Never speak to me again. Just speak to the first assistant." Hunt even left his own birthday party when he saw Lazenby there.
Oh my God.
Wow. This is incredible,
it's
actually.
It's my party and I'll cry if I want to.
I'll leave if I want to.
So just as another thing, the film stunt coordinator had to be restrained from physically attacking Lazenby after he was so rude to a barmaid that he made her cry.
Oh my God.
Wow.
This guy sounds like a piece of work.
He took it to heart. You're a big star. Oh, I need to act like a big star.
So apparently, while he was in Switzerland filming, Lazenby just bought a gun and just was riding around on his motorcycle, just with the gun and
like shooting it or showing it to people.
I mean,
or just having it.
It doesn't say.
Wow.
But they had to put a stop to that.
Sure. Wow. Okay. Well, back to the movie. Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So things I did like, right? I did like a lot of the fist fight action scenes. There was some sped up footage, which I didn't love, but they felt way more like visceral and quick, and like the sound effects were good and punchy compared to like, again, the Connery ones, which is all you've had before this one.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The bobsled ending action scene was horrendous. That was terrible.
The footage.
Yeah, the footage is so bad.
It was terribly choreographed. The footage is bad. Everything. I was like, we got to that point in the movie. I was like, this is a stinker. Like,
especially
just end it, please.
After coming from watching the Moore era Bond films, because within that decade or so, I mean, they moved along pretty quick.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Like special effects came way up. The choreography came way up.
Yeah. Star Wars happened.
They had to compete.
I think the other thing that kind of like bugged me about this movie was it felt very like chaotic and herky-jerky. Like scenes would just kind of end a little too soon or not soon enough, and then it would go and it would be like in a different place. And there were multiple times where I was disoriented just from the editing more than like it wasn't I couldn't follow the story. It was that like, wait, what are we doing now? Why?
Sometimes like someone goes to like walk down a flight of steps and the camera just follows them. And it's like, something significant happens here? No, we're just watching them go down the steps. So we could have just cut.
So on the bobsled scene, the bobsled scene ran into several problems during production. The fact that the canton of Bern was experiencing its mildest weather in years meant that the bobsled run was built for the film was melting away.
Typical.
So they had to import more snow from around 80 miles away to stop the heavy bobsleds from bursting through the walls. Go figure.
Wow.
It also intertwined with public domain, including footpaths and ski trails. And a small child on a wooden sled came speeding around a corner and crashed into the film team during preparation.
That's incredible, actually.
Blofeld's stunt double collided with his own bobsled, and Bonds was flung from the track on a sharp corner. The former had to get stitches inside his mouth, but he returned to the track more than a mere hours later. Bond's stunt double was then thrown off the track by a hand grenade by accident.
Well, there was that one.
Like a real hand grenade? Or
yes,
just
a real hand grenade.
Jeez. They didn't have money for stunt
I'm
hand
just
grenades.
staring at you.
I mean, that's what
it just says
says.
a hand grenade. Okay, all right.
By a hand grenade by accident, almost like what happens in the final film.
Oh, go figure.
But his bobsled took the brunt of the blast.
They just
So
leave
it
it in? Is that in the edit?
Man.
Then Blofeld's double collided with the tree that he was supposed to get stuck in due to a faulty harness, but apparently they didn't end up liking that cut, so Telly Savalas did the stunt himself at Pinewood Studios later for whatever reason. And then there are also issues with Blofeld's bobsled outrunning the cameraman due to the combined weight of the stuntman and the camera going, like, basically being in one thing. So they're just going faster.
Yeah. It was a mess.
It was.
The bobsled scene is terrible.
Yeah.
I didn't really like Telly Savalas as
I didn't either.
Blofeld either.
Well,
He does not
he
feel
felt
it at
just
all.
more like a normal guy.
I didn't hate it, honestly. I
Okay.
didn't hate it.
He didn't have the whoa kind of.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
But in some ways, just kind of the benignness of it makes it kind of hit a little different,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for the overall plot that we had here, where he was kind of setting up where it's like these random places around the world we're going to have these disasters,
Mhm.
and they're borderline untraceable, unpreventable. Like that concept I thought was pretty good.
Yeah. Now, when did they lose the whole, or not the right, they had the rights issue with Blofeld? Was it this the
that
first
was-
movie?
that
They were still going through this.
Yeah.
It was in process. Because in Diamonds Are Forever,
Well,
Blofeld.
So basically, after this film, this was what really kind of started it.
Okay.
Because clearly he's Blofeld in this film.
Yeah.
And then whenever you go to For Your Eyes Only, they have like the little nod of like he still is in the neck brace, like paraplegic kind of thing.
Got it.
Yeah, in the wheelchair.
Because that was
Okay.
the last time you saw him was on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Got it. Okay.
But it isn't technically him in
right. in the
For Your
other-
Eyes Only. Yeah.
Because at that point they were actually deeply embroiled in the fight.
Well,
Yeah.
What did you think, Andrew?
Overall.
I mean, I think it's a fine film. Like I definitely think it's one of the better ones of that era. No, I'm not going to say it's better than like Goldfinger or something like that, but I definitely think it's better than a lot of the worse Sean Connery films.
See, I think every Connery's better than this.
Interesting.
Easily.
But I think it's really just because of the emotional notes that you get at the end of the film that definitely make it. But yeah,
Give
like,
me all right, hold on, Ryan. Give me
Yeah.
your worst Connery.
Ooh, probably You Only Live Twice.
yeah, where he
Probably.
goes yellow face.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
the
probably
one
worst
thing I'll
for
definitely
me.
say about this is the assault on the resort or whatever was quite good.
I like that one.
Yeah.
So-
Because, like you get him like sliding on the ice, shooting a machine gun.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
That was
good.
really cool.
There were some decent action scenes here and there.
Mhm.
So for
Um,
reference,
mhm.
Because Lazenby only has one, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have to really consult IMDb to rate to figure out what the best ones would be.
Yeah, it's just what it was.
It's just the one.
So it gets a 6.8 on IMDb.
Okay.
You Only Live Twice, you're quoted worst Connery. I don't know if Andrew agrees with that.
I'd probably
assessment.
agree.
Okay, it's also a 6.8.
Mm.
So I
That's
would
on
say
par.
this is not better than any of Connery's offerings.
Okay,
At
fine, sure.
best, it's sort of equal with the worst offering you can get.
Yeah.
Lazenby later claimed that he was given very bad advice by his agent, who convinced him that New Hollywood and counterculture, James Bond would be archaic in the 70s.
Bond fact.
Just jumping in there.
Yep, that's what I do.
But yeah, I did like the actual assault.
Mhm.
Also, just kind of the bit where they were trying to play off of like, oh, it's a mercy flight. This is a medical.
Yeah.
Like that was actually pretty good radio of just like we just had to buy time to get close enough
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just be sort of convincing. And then
Mhm.
once we're in there and the raid starts, it doesn't matter.
I feel like what you said is very apt, that like if you were to take this script and rework it as even a
Like a-
Roger Moore one,
like
Yeah.
you would be able
Man,
to
if
have
this
like
more
again,
modern.
If this was Timothy Dalton, this thing would have tore up the
Yeah,
screens.
I mean, it would have had Timothy Dalton in it, so yes.
So,
it
like,
would
by
have.
default, yeah.
Just you're already biased, but I'm just saying
I-
if we move forward 20 years and then put this film on screen, it'd
Yeah.
been great.
So
Yeah.
how do each of you feel about Lazenby as Bond?
I think he's a brick.
I mean, he looks the part.
I
and it
think
kinda
he's a
ends
brick.
there. Well, so what you're saying is the bit where he slides on the ice with the machine gun is perfect because that's what you would do with a brick, like a curling. You just send it on down.
Send it. I mean, obviously he only got the one movie, but it definitely never feels like he settles into the role.
No. He has the look though.
Yeah, there's multiple times where he does, and I did enjoy the espionage, like impersonating the ancestry person.
Yeah, again, like
and
that
it was all dubbed, but like I loved that idea.
Well and smart and intelligently done. You know, like
I enjoyed those sections of like, oh, okay, he's like, because we don't see Bond do that a whole lot of like impersonate someone else, especially with Connery.
Time to go in blasting, right?
I talk like Sean Connery, you know.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah,
I don't do a Russian
Hunt
accent.
for Red October. It hasn't come out yet, but it will one day.
And then you'll know.
There was definitely a couple of scenes too where like they waited for him to not be facing the camera and they like dubbed in a one-liner of like a quip. And it's like, because I don't think a single one of his quips were him looking and speaking on camera. So they were all added in post. So clearly when they got through filming it and were putting it together, they were probably, oh, okay.
So after Blofeld gets like rung up by the tree at the end, and like he like is turning around, he's like, looks like you got hung up, but they like cut it off like right before he actually finishes the line.
Yeah, so it looks like he got hung. What?
What?
I only have one more fact here.
Give us one more Bond fact.
So Broccoli's wife, Dana, suggested that the producers throw a party to cheer everyone up because
this is such a sad experience.
So they only had a day to put it together, and Broccoli arranged for all the food to be brought in from hotels and everything, and at a moment's notice, right?
Yeah.
And so, they get everyone.
No expenses being spared here is what this really amounts to.
And, everyone's having a party, fun time, whatever. And then
everyone's having a party, fun time.
And then Lazenby shows up.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
And he goes and sulks in a corner.
What a brick.
Broccoli went over to him and asked him what was wrong. Lazenby replied that he should have had an invitation to the party as he was the star of the film. Broccoli then explained to him that nobody had an invite. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing, day's notice pretty much. And he told him, "You're not a star until the public makes you one," and walks off.
Which is what he should have been told at the start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, what a
wild ride
all around.
Yeah, it is.
This movie is such a mess. Makes so much more sense.
It
now.
does. It really does. Like, everybody hates each other on screen.
Yeah, it's unfortunate too, because you always hate to see it whenever stuff like that happens. But man, like that's just brutal.
Yeah,
for production,
top to bottom, sounds like it was a nightmare.
Well, and they had like the actual production itself was relatively smooth. It's just Lazenby was just a pain to work with.
People involved,
people did not like each other, and it makes a big difference.
Well, I think too, like Diana Rigg as Teresa, like I don't know, like nothing she did in the movie made me, oh wow, that's who Bond will marry. Like everything she did was on par with most other Bond girls. You know what I mean? Like nothing. She wasn't like another spy.
Well, I thought they had good chemistry at the end of the film.
They did. They did.
Like maybe that was like when they first started shooting.
Maybe they shot it out of order.
Then as they get through,
as the falling out happened.
Yeah.
Man, what a train wreck. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Or maybe a bobsled wreck.
So, one thing we actually haven't mentioned was the opening theme, and which was made by John Barry, and then he worked with Louis Armstrong to have the vocals at the end of "We Have All the Time in the World," which John Barry did cite that was his favorite piece of Bond music that he worked on. Period.
Okay,
well, that's fun.
Yeah, and then he loved working with Louis Armstrong.
Who wouldn't, honestly?
Yeah. I mean,
come on.
I love that song at the end. It's just really melancholy, though, just because.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, if you like what you've heard, then you should check out some of our other episodes. If you go to spoilersintendedpodcast.com, you can see access to all of our stuff. We got a lot of good reviews on there, some more recent stuff. We have social channels. You should check us out on Instagram, Facebook, like and share if you see us over there.
Discord.
We're trying to definitely check out the Discord. We love having conversations with people. It's not just about the episodes. We have channels in there dedicated to what people are playing. what people are reading, some stuff that we're watching.
Music, hobbies.
Yeah,
all
everything.
sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
If you would, please leave us a review on your podcast service of choice, preferably iTunes.
We love an iTunes review.
We'll take
it
review.
anywhere we can get it.
But we'll take it anyway.
Yeah, wherever you're listening to us, please leave us a review. And obviously, if you like what you heard, share it with your friends. All right, let's move on to our next movie, the first Timothy Dalton movie as Bond, The Living Daylights. Let me give you a quick plot summary for this one. James Bond is sent to investigate a KGB policy to kill all enemy spies and uncovers an arms deal that potentially has major global ramifications.
That is such a short.
Seriously.
What a
short synopsis.
Tell us
for
nothing.
a very convoluted plot. It's like they put it in one sentence.
Convoluted is an understatement.
You were like, for On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Ryan, you were like, this is very convoluted. Like, well, hold on.
Oh, no, I didn't say it was the most.
No, but comparatively, that is child's play.
Absolutely.
Compared to what's going on
yeah.
here.
Yeah, there's like a double defection, double
cross,
double defection.
Do-si-do.
The thing I had the most trouble with
up.
was the motivations of Koskov. I was like, so wait, is he doing this so he can become the next head of it? Or is he doing it to make money with the arms deal?
We didn't know.
Both?
We were never
Or is
really definitely told.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is you're never really definitely told. You're left to infer a lot about that. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay. So this one was released in 1987.
Yep. A year after I was born.
Hey, you're so young. You're a little baby.
Little baby.
You're a little baby.
You're not that much older than me.
It was directed by John Glenn, the astronaut.
Wait,
No.
Andrew's like, how did I not see that in my trivia?
Starring, it was directed by a guy named John Glenn, but it's not the astronaut. Starring, obviously, Timothy Dalton, cleft chin and all, as James Bond. Miriam D'Abo as Cara Milovi. And Jeroen, I'm going to butcher this name, so buckle up. Here we go. Jeroen Karabe as General Koskov.
Yeah.
And he does a good job as like a sleazy guy, but he does a terrible Russian accent.
Oh,
Boy,
yeah.
he doesn't even try.
I mean, he's like a used car salesman.
Yeah, like, wow, they could not get a dude that knew how to do a Russian
He
accent.
had the look.
He did have the look. Like,
Yeah.
he was there, but every time he talks, I'm like, he's not even trying.
So yeah, I mean, what do we think about this?
Oh, so interesting relation here. So John Glenn, our director,
Mhm.
he was an editor on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh, weird.
Oh, wow.
Oh, funny how that works out.
Yeah.
So he was like, one day, around 20 years from now, I'm going to make my
Oh,
mark.
no.
I think he's done other Bond movies.
No, hold on. This
Okay.
gets so much better. So he was the editor for The Spy Who Loved Me
Uh-huh.
and Moonraker.
Okay.
He's also the editor for, are you ready for this?
Uh-huh.
The Wild Geese.
The first
The
one?
first one? It does
Wow.
exist.
Wow.
Absolutely. What an unexpected, what a twist here.
Budding fiction we're building here, and like we're just discovering.
I want to know what these films are about. That you would need two of them.
I know,
Yes.
right? But he also directed Octopussy, View to a Kill, License to Kill.
Oh, okay. So
he's done a lot
Yeah.
of Bond. Yeah.
was
Oh,
gonna
I
say,
didn't know he did
I
License
feel like
to
it
Kill.
came up on one of the other episodes.
And For Your
we
Eyes
have.
Only. So it did
Yeah.
come up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Overall, I like this one okay. I think I like the Timothy Dalton movies better every time I watch them.
Yeah.
But this one is still kind of a mess.
It's a little camp.
It's
I
not the best
love-
debut for
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Oh, no. I love this film, but I love the parts individually, not as
Yeah.
a whole.
There we go.
Yeah.
He's got it right.
There are
Yeah.
definitely moments that are like very cool, but like
Yeah.
I feel like Dalton as Bond wasn't given any favors with the script on this one, is what it feels like. Because like it felt like every now and then they try to work in some camp when they shouldn't have, or I don't know. There's just a few scenes that feel like they should have been shot or edited or written a different way.
Mhm.
That it could have been made the movie as a whole better. But there's so much else going on plot wise. It's a mess that it's hard to like focus on that when you have just spaghetti hitting the wall.
I'm definitely on the same realm here that I think this is a really fun film when you're looking at it in sections.
Yeah.
Because you have some amazing sequences throughout the whole film that really just hit home on the 80s action film, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
your final set piece is such an incredible classic action sequence that Uncharted was like, man, I want to do that.
Yeah, twice.
Both in the game and
yeah.
in the movie.
So Timothy Dalton has named this his favorite Bond film that he did.
Okay.
So he liked this over License to Kill.
It's a pretty limited list, so 50-50.
It's still his favorite. And so he actually did a lot of his own stunts in this film.
Which is referenced in The Rocketeer.
It is.
Which is hilarious.
But yeah, so the 1,300-foot drop when they're on the Gibraltar military base, which was a real military installation in Gibraltar that they used. Basically, whenever the Jeep goes over the cliff, like that's him doing those kind of thing. I don't think he actually came out of the Jeep.
You don't think he rode off the cliff?
But he was the one that
into the sunset.
Yeah, he was the one that was
on top,
like on the parachute, everything like that, on top, whatever. Yeah, and I think he actually dislocated his shoulder when he was doing that.
I believe it.
But like basically his big thing was because he was the new Bond, he wanted it to be different than Roger Moore's Bond, obviously.
Super campy, yeah.
But he also wanted it to be as real as possible because he was really passionate about the role, which unfortunately, like it's really weird. So Timothy Dalton had been considered for the role of Bond multiple times within the past, like basically like 15 years. But every time that he auditioned for it, he auditioned really well, but they considered him too young.
Right.
And at the time, whenever this came out, he was 19 years younger than Roger Moore was whenever he ended his career as Bond. Like 3 years earlier.
Probably a good age to be because Moore was old at that point.
Moore was very old.
Moore was like 47 in Live and Let Die when he started or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like...
He was already old.
He got up there, yeah.
So Timothy Dalton got the role for this, but it was also up for the... Sean Bean was up for this role. Pierce Brosnan was up for this role.
Oh, yeah.
Roger Moore wanted to come back for this role.
Really?
Because he felt that View to a Kill was not good enough to end his career on.
Agreed. Should have thought of that before you made it.
But the problem was that he called Broccoli basically like a couple days before they started principal photography.
Oh, yeah, that's
a little late.
A little late there,
a little
Mr.
late in the
Moore.
game.
But he also considered this film back in 2012 to be a bloody good movie.
Talking about Timothy Dalton.
No, Roger Moore.
Roger Moore's opinion.
Yeah.
So he thinks it worked out well.
Yeah. He really did like Timothy Dalton in the role.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was no like bad blood or anything.
So is this your favorite Timothy Dalton Bond?
No, License to Kill.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like License to Kill is my favorite, but I haven't seen both of them back to back in
this one just has a
years.
lot of really good moments. I think one of my favorite scenes of the film doesn't even have Timothy Dalton in it. Is the basically the henchman infiltrating the British Secret Service safe house.
Oh, that's a great
as
sequence.
the milkman with the exploding milk bottles.
Yeah.
And the really like visceral fight in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's a good fight.
That's a fight that you could put Daniel Craig in and just be like, oh yeah, this is a modern Bond film, you know?
And I think the reason why it's so good is because all of us understand all the danger that's in a kitchen just inherently.
Yeah.
So like, oh man, like they have like an open like stove right now.
Hot stove, couple of knives.
Boiling water.
Yeah.
They have, a meat carver.
Well, and they do that thing where they fake you out a few times with like the boiling water.
Yeah.
Where like some of the stuff doesn't connect.
Yeah.
And, like, whereas I feel like in the Roger Moore movies, especially by the end of them, it was pretty much like, like prop introduced, prop pays off, move to the next scene.
Yeah.
This felt like a genuine back and forth.
Like a fight.
There was a lot of danger. There was a lot of
a couple times you think that the good guy is going to win here.
Yeah.
And obviously, like it wouldn't move the plot forward, but it was, that fight is so good.
That is a good one. Yeah.
The action sequences coming from basically just watching Lazenby's Bond, the action sequences felt just incredible. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. By comparison, for sure, you see the 20 years of
just jump 2 decades.
I mean, yeah, it's a big difference.
I did not care for the new Moneypenny.
This
that's just me being a grumpy old man.
This was her first role.
Yeah.
For obviously like being Moneypenny.
But then they bring her back when Brosnan came
Correct.
in, and so it's just it's a weird like footnote in Bond history, or like these movies where she doesn't, because Q's still there.
Yeah.
Like everyone else. So it's like, why did they decide not to put Moneypenny in there?
Yeah, I don't know. I think
Maybe she had something else going on.
Yeah. I
You
think
know, or she just got
wasn't-
too old, or she wasn't interested. You never know.
All right. So what did you not like about it?
The plot is ridiculous.
The plot is
It is.
insane. Even on like a macro level, right? The overall idea of what's going on, like we kind of said, we don't really understand what the motivations are involved.
Yeah.
But when you get into individual set pieces, especially the final bit, right?
Yeah.
Bond planted the bomb on the opium plane.
Now he does get he's trying to leave the plane and
Right.
he gets caught, and that's
I
what starts the
guess-
whole sequence.
I guess. But he's like, I planted the bomb on the plane, so then I get on the plane to take the plane off.
Well, because at that point he's just trying to steal it to make sure that.
But he knows there's a bomb in the bag.
Well, but he knows
Yeah.
that he can defuse it.
Well, anybody can defuse it. You push one button, apparently.
If they find it, like I thought he was going to leave it and then just get off the plane.
Yeah,
Well,
I
he
I,
tried
And
to.
let him fly away. And
He
then they-
tried to, and they saw him.
I had
don't know.
a legit. The plane had like four
Now the
doors.
sequence for everyone to get back on the plane before it flies off is totally ridiculous and makes no sense.
Oh, sure.
yeah. Well, also, dropping the Jeep out the back with like a 30-foot. Well, I was watching this with my wife and we were laughing because it was like the plane's headed for mountains, right? And then it's like time to drop the Jeep. It's like, here's a nice flat open air. It's like, you could have just put the plane down here.
Yeah. Oh, the very end, that was the worst part of like, we can't land here. Let's put the Jeep. And then they pan out and you're like, this is a big runway.
It's a desert,
It's
for
a
God's
giant
sake.
straight
There's
road, and you're in the middle of a
here.
flat. Like this is the most landable surface I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That they should have shot that somewhere else.
Yeah.
I did want to go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Another thing that we were laughing about, he bombs the Russians, right? And like blows up the bridge and everyone's cheering. And
Yeah.
it's like, this is the middle of nowhere, Afghanistan. That's probably like the only bridge to cross this area for miles. Like he just killed the local
Oh
economy.
yeah, I thought the same thing. I'm like, we can't get medicine.
That's it, yeah.
We can't get food in
You're
here.
like, our crops grow on the other side of this. Well, now we starve this winter, I don't know why that struck me so hard, but it's just like, did we have to take one little satchel of C4 and blow up the whole bridge?
Apparently.
Apparently we did, but like, man.
This is on the things that I like.
Well, I was about to transition to some stuff I like. So yeah, good.
I like the fight in the jail with
Oh,
with
yeah.
the jailer guy.
Yeah, that's good.
okay.
Yeah.
So this is so weird.
Uh-huh.
Because of this film, I have wanted a whistle keychain my entire life, where you go, whoop whoop, and it talks back to you.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
okay, yeah.
I didn't want to whistle into the mic. That's why I just made a sound.
Okay, I was confused, but now I'm with you.
Yeah, I didn't want to make your life miserable.
Ryan and editing's like, oh, what am I supposed to do with this?
But I don't know what it is, but I thought that was the coolest thing as a kid, and I have always wanted one.
Easy to impress, I could see.
Well, because what if you lose your keys?
Man, I've got a
look, man.
I've got a store for you. It's called Sharper Image. You're gonna lose your mind in there, Andrew.
He just asked Santa for an Oscar Mayer weenie whistle, okay?
Hey, no! But you can whistle the Queen's song, and then it puts out a stun gas. That's cool.
That is cool. I don't know if they have that at Sharper
They
Image.
probably don't. Now, definitely not anymore.
I want to talk about the car.
Oh man, the car's cool.
I love that.
I love
car.
The
that
car's
car.
so cool.
I love that car.
So the whole sequence.
Oh,
So again, we're on things we like, right?
yeah.
The whole sequence with the cello chase, right? Where we go from car into cello case, etc.
over the border.
I love.
Yeah.
Oh, we've nothing to declare
Nothing to
except
declare.
the cello. Well, and I love the bit where she insists they're bringing the cello. We have to go by the conservatory and get my cello.
Yeah.
He's like,
And then,
"Ugh."
and he's like, and then as they're going down it, and he's steering with it, he's like, I'm so glad I made you turn around and get the cello.
Yeah.
It's such a perfect Bond line.
Well, and the best part too, with the way they edited that, when she's like, "We have to get the cello," and he's like, "We are not getting the cello." Cut to he's in the car,
Yeah.
Waiting.
It's just like frustrated.
You also have like the elevator music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even the gadgets in the car
Oh, great.
I
Oh,
love
yeah.
when they cut the car off
The laser, they cut it
the
off
laser
the frame.
that cuts it off the frame, and then
Yep.
it just slides off. And that whole sequence on the ice with the tanks and
well,
and
even
the spikes.
like him driving around in the shed.
yeah,
That's hilarious.
It's really fun. So the cello chase scene took 3 days for them to shoot. The cello was specially made of fiberglass, and it would fitted with with control handles on the sides and skis underneath. Firecrackers were set in the snow to simulate gunfire during the filming, of course, because they
Yeah.
didn't want to shoot them
Yeah.
Sure.
And the case would tend to topple over as Timothy Dalton was heavier than Mariam.
His co-star.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That which makes
Abdo-
sense.
It makes
Diabdo?
sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Miriam, yeah.
Yeah. But I thought I loved that entire
Now,
sequence.
I laughed, obviously, like when the cello gets shot, because, I mean, of all the things, like a Stradivarius, it gets shot. I think his foot goes to pieces.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not, there's no way you're
It's
like
just,
getting
like,
back on
shattered,
stage
yeah.
and play. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got just a little bullet hole. It's like, no.
There's a small bullet hole in the front, and the whole back of it blows out.
Yeah.
So Joe Don Baker as Brad Whitaker for me was like interesting.
I love that character. I also love that they just brought him back as a totally different character for
Oh,
GoldenEye.
For GoldenEye,
Yeah.
yeah.
He plays Felix, doesn't he? In Goldeneye?
Yeah, he's yes. Yo, Jimbo.
Yo, Jimbo,
Yeah,
give me that
Yeah.
hammer. No, the bigger one.
his like
The sledge.
his character's like whole thing of like I'm obsessed with military history
Yeah.
and I have
Uh-huh.
all
And
this
he's
stuff.
got statues of himself as like Julius
Right.
Caesar, Genghis
Yeah.
Khan.
That I can get behind. But then again with the plot, it's so convoluted of like,
What his motivations are.
so wait, what is he
Money.
doing? He's just trying to get money, but then it's
Money.
like as soon as the US government and the Russian government catch wind you're doing it, you're donezo, bud. Like that's obviously, or the British government. Like, what's all these governments know that you're scamming them? But he just keeps rolling forward like he's
Yeah.
a man on. And it's like I don't know. That was interesting. The end fight in that little area like is kind of a mixed bag.
It's
I'm
a
like,
very Roger Moore scene.
It did have kind of like some cheesy moments, and he's behind the weird like laser tag looking like gun.
Yeah.
And I was like, y'all could
it's
make
not-
that look a little bit cooler.
It's not laser tag. It's American Gladiators with the
Yes,
little shield.
it was. Nitro when he's shooting the tennis balls at him.
Yes.
Yeah. So that scene was like interesting and weird, and I was like, I don't know, I can't tell if I'm supposed to laugh at this or if I'm supposed to
It
be
was
like
kind of like a parody.
a
Mhm.
little bit.
It was really weird. Now, I mean, like, I think the best thing about the whole show, the whole film, though,
Mhm.
is the Steven mentioned it earlier, but the cargo plane, final action set piece with the
Yeah.
Well, the cargo
henchman.
net fight and everything. I mean, that, which I did laugh because at the end, right, the henchman's got his boot
Yeah.
and he's cutting the shoelaces and he's like, no, don't do that. And it's like, dude, there's like string all around you can grab onto.
I thought the same thing.
I'm like, dude, just reach your other hand out and you're fine.
You're surrounded by a net with handholds, and he's like, the boot though. I'm like, no.
I mean, you're hanging off of a plane, a couple thousand feet in the air.
Yeah.
You can tunnel vision a little bit.
Yeah.
I also did like, having seen basically the same scene in Uncharted,
Yeah.
I liked that and appreciated the fact that real physics were in play here.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that once the net lost weight, it became much more unstable.
Oh, man,
And
I
Oh,
was-
and it was just flopping
Yeah,
I was
around.
that
yeah.
stunt guy, and I was like, and they cut the scene really quick one time, and I was like, is that because it smacked the
They-
plane at
Back
full
of the
like
plane.
like it was whipping around in the air.
Yeah.
Although I did laugh too when it was like, oh yes, that famous Russian plane, the C-130.
So one thing that I didn't like about this film, and we actually covered this in one of our bonus episodes talking about Bond opening
Oh,
credit
you
rolls.
don't like this
I
credit
don't.
roll.
I don't really like this. The ahas for this.
No, it felt like a misuse of aha. It was like,
Well, so fun thing. John Barry actually didn't like the cut that aha did for this.
oh
So
really?
there's actually two different cuts of this song
Yeah.
that float around just on various James Bond like albums,
Extra
or whatever, that throw up.
DVDs
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
And but yeah, like it just doesn't really feel like a Bond song.
No, and it doesn't feel like an aha song
Either. Yeah, it's a weird blend where we got neither in the
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like some of the Bond themes, which check out our Patreon bonus episode if you'd like to hear us argue about the best
Just
Bond.
give us a
I've
dollar.
almost come to blows while
Yeah.
I cackle in the corner.
Yeah, $1.
Me and Ryan like James Bond a lot.
We care a lot. Steven doesn't.
Doesn't.
He likes watching us argue.
He's just an agent
I'm
of
just there for the
chaos.
laughs.
In those openings, you see some that are like, okay, this sounds like a song by this artist,
Yeah.
Whatever. And then other times it's like, well, this is a Bond song. It just happens to be being sung by this person. This one, it doesn't hit on any level for me.
Yeah,
Like,
even the visuals aren't that good.
nah, they were just kind of there.
Yeah, it has too much of the 80s flair in there, I think.
Yeah.
And they go a little bit too hard.
So how do you feel about Timothy Dalton as Bond? I'll ask Steven this because I know how Andrew feels after seeing this movie specifically.
I mean, I like Timothy Dalton as Bond in general. I think if Dalton had been Bond longer or earlier, really,
Probably earlier.
it would have been
like,
just a better.
If he was
overall.
early 80s, like pretty much from like not For Your Eyes Only, but the next one after Octopussy, so hopefully not that film.
So like
Right.
83 or whatever.
Yeah, but started from there and
Yeah.
then went all the way until Brosnan took over. I think having just even 4 films under his belt would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I think too the transition from Connery obviously to Lazenby was incredibly jarring.
Yeah.
From Connery to Moore was also pretty jarring.
Mhm.
Whereas the transition from Dalton to Brosnan actually feels very smooth.
Because they're both playing relatively similar
They're
characters.
they are
Yeah.
very kind of, when I look at what I think of as James Bond, right? That continuity of character
Mhm.
where it's both very, very capable but also very smooth
Yeah.
is basically what I expect Bond to be in a sense.
Yeah.
So going from like Dalton to Brosnan feels really, really like it tracks. Like you could basically just say, we just recast it as opposed to it being the weird universes where we're like,
this is a whole completely different.
James Bond is a
Right.
code name, and it's just they bring in a new dude to be that guy. Like, oh, this could just be the same guy.
Yeah.
He just has like a little surgery to make him a little less noticeable or something. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Get rid of that cleft chin. It's not good for the wind resistance when you're hanging from the back of planes. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think about Timothy Dalton as Bond?
Well, like I said earlier, I think I like him more as Bond every time I see him. I don't have the affinity for him as Bond.
Don't say something like that. Andrew's just gonna force feed you Dalton until you
He's
love
gonna make
him.
me keep watching
Go
it.
full
We're gonna watch
Clockwork-
these 2 films forever.
Just gonna go
And
full
you're gonna like
Clockwork
it.
Orange
Yeah.
and prop your eyes open.
But I didn't watch a ton of the Dalton movies growing up,
Yeah.
like I did the other stuff, because
Mhm.
my mom was a huge fan of the
Roger
Connery
Moore,
movies
yeah.
and the Roger Moore movies, and so we rented those and watched those all the time. And then when the Bond marathons started, and I
Yeah.
had access to cable, it was like, oh, cool. And I watched part of, I think it was this one of the Timothy Daltons, and I just didn't vibe with it. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know, this
So-
isn't quite,
I mean, if you're really big into Roger Moore and camp, like definitely Dalton is a 180 degrees difference. And
I still think there is enough camp and like quippiness
for
in
this
there.
one,
For this, yes.
if you watch like License to Kill first after coming from
yeah,
Roger
okay.
Moore,
Now
it's gonna
that's
be
jarring,
knee jerk.
because there's not hardly any camp in that one at all.
No,
right?
it is very much a emotional revenge story.
It's very serious.
Yeah, and it's definitely it's definitely his best one, and it's unfortunate that he didn't get more.
Not according to IMDb.
Not according to
Well,
IMDb.
yeah.
That's how we ended up here.
Well, this one had this Living Daylights is a better Bond film.
Right, in terms of what a Bond
License
film
Right.
to
could
Kill
It's
is
just
just
a
a great action.
a better film.
Yeah,
in
it's just a
sense,
better
right.
film, by far and large. But it's definitely one of those things where your parents were your mom was really big into Roger Moore, and my dad was really big into Timothy Dalton and Pierce Brosnan.
be. Right.
So that's what we watched.
Yeah.
See, I think for me, like by the time, and I'm just so much older than you. By the time Brosnan was Bond, I was already going to the theater to see.
go into the theater.
No, I mean I didn't drive myself there. I'm not that old, but I'm saying I didn't have to wait to see if my parents liked it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I liked Pierce Brosnan because he was like GoldenEye will always have a special place in my heart because it was.
Well, it's a fantastic film.
It's fantastic, but it was one of the first ones where it's like, this is a new generation. I'm that age where I'm discovering.
It's the same thing for me.
It's-
I
yeah.
went to see it in
It's
theaters.
not-
thank you
right,
very
but I'm
much.
saying,
hold on now.
my
It's-
parents didn't like the
Yeah,
Timothy
yeah.
Daltons, so I never saw them
Mhm.
that much.
that makes sense.
And so I kind of skipped from more
Yeah.
straight to Dalton, where it was like, this is my Bond.
Yeah.
He's a new guy. I'm the Pierce Brosnan fan,
Yeah.
type thing.
Well, I would also say it's not just that for me, because
Mhm.
watching this film, I don't know how many times I've seen this actually, but you see these set pieces through the snow and in the cargo plane, and I am very familiar with what's going to happen in these
Yep.
scenes.
Yeah.
But as a kid, because the plot is just so convoluted, most of what else happens in between there
It's
is
just a blur.
totally wasted. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a smear of whatever. And by the time you get to something like GoldenEye, the concept of Alec
Trevelyan.
and the double cross, at that age where I was entering my teens or whatever, I understood those.
Yeah.
Whereas watching Dalton when I'm 8, I'm just like, oh, they're going through the snow. who's this person?
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
I just don't like the
Yeah.
other pieces.
You black out for like
Yeah,
part of the film.
pretty much. I'm like the crossing the border in the cello case. I couldn't tell you. I've probably seen that scene at least half a dozen times.
Yeah,
I don't think I've seen the movie that many
The whole
times,
movie,
but I'm
yeah.
not sure.
yeah. You just don't remember.
I don't remember.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good point because it is like in terms of for kids watching, and that's probably where my headspace was coming from, like a kid that was enjoyed the Roger Moore movies because of how campy they were.
And they're pretty easy to follow what's going on.
Generally,
Well,
some of them.
Well, sometimes it's not the plot's fault. It's just the execution of the plot.
Yeah.
There's definitely some of them that it is the plot's fault.
So, like, and that is one thing I'll definitely say about License to Kill is it is a very straightforward plot. Like, there is basically nothing beyond just dude had his friend killed. He is on a revenge.
Out for revenge.
Yeah, out for revenge, and he is just going to end up stopping a drug cartel in the process. And you get to watch a semi truck go on four wheels and dodge a Stinger missile. It's great.
That does sound great.
Oh man, I forgot about that until you said that.
Don't even.
I don't.
That is a fantastic scene.
So, anyways,
sir.
backing up to the actual movie we're talking about here.
Okay, so does anybody have any last thoughts about?
Yeah, I was gonna chime in here with two things, right?
Okay.
So first, good thing, fun thing. Bond making the snap decision of basically seeing her across the street with the rifle and like basically interpreting body language, etc. of she's never held a rifle in her life,
Right.
and making the call to shoot the gun and not her. I thought that was a great scene.
That was a really good scene. Yeah.
And also, it obviously pays off throughout for the plot. So not bad per se, but just kind of weird and being like, ooh, this movie didn't age great, is watching the Mujahideen as the good guys.
Oh, yeah.
Coming in for the rescue. You're like, yeah, give it a decade or so, guys.
Man,
And,
the 80s, like with Rambo 3, there's so many movies where it's like,
whoopsie.
yeah, whoopsie
Well, I
indeed.
mean, but that was the time.
Yeah,
But
I mean, at the
the
time,
idea
that's
is-
who we were supporting them.
Yeah.
right?
It's more of the idea that, like, if we were to just, like, show up and just get these Russians out of here, they'd love
they'll
everyone
love
from the
us.
West. They'll
Yeah.
love us. It's great.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's not,
not really how
that's
it
not
worked
quite
out.
how that's going to work out, guys.
Anybody else? Final thoughts?
Yeah, so I got
Yeah.
two.
Mhm.
One thing, this was actually the first. This is just trivia. This is the first.
I've got two thoughts, so
film-
trivia.
Bond fact.
First Bond fact is the fact that this is the first Bond film
Mhm.
that he is a one-woman man.
Oh, yeah.
He is
I didn't think
only
about
interested
that.
in Kara, and that is it. There's no other.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't
Well, the
chase
lady
any
at the
fluff.
very front
at
on the
beginning,
yacht.
but he is not two-timing.
Yeah, that's before he
That is
even
the-
Very
does it.
true.
Yeah,
Very
he's just
true.
on his own.
Yeah, so he's not like with a girl and then seduces another girl.
So
to,
basically,
like,
he's not Lazenby. where he's
Lazenby's
like,
seducing three other
love
girls.
of my life.
Wow.
Three
Yeah.
women back to back to
Exactly,
back.
yeah.
Love of my life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually really liked John Rhys Davy in this.
John Rhys Davies. Yeah.
Yeah, as Pushkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a good job. I always love him.
He
as
actually did a
Sala,
Russian
and-
accent.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah. Well, he's a good actor.
He's
just
a
in
good
general.
actor. Yeah,
Yeah.
but he was fun in this,
Mhm.
and it's just a fun film.
I sold that to Lauren as, oh yeah, Gimli's in this. She's like, what?
As himself.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan?
I like it. I think the way you put it was perfect. There are pieces of this movie
That was me. That was me.
Is that what
No,
you-
you made this. I made this.
I don't remember who did.
God, this isn't on the internet yet. And you're already stealing it from me. That's not fair.
One of you animals
I have
said
done all the work here.
you said that like it's better enjoyed in pieces than as a whole. Like,
Yeah.
right? I agree with that wholeheartedly because like the scene with the car on the ice, the cello scene,
Slide.
That's great.
the scene where he shoots the gun instead of her,
Some great
the pipeline
individual
scene.
set. Yeah, like
There's
there's some
some-
great
Oh,
the
and
kitchen
the
fight
pieces.
scene.
Yeah, and the Russian pipeline
Yeah.
girl.
Oh,
Oh, she's great.
That's amazing.
I
that whole
love
scene is
that
great.
whole set where she's like, "Oh, I'll take care of the operator." Oh, she's gonna go like off him. Then it's like, "No, this is a total flip around." Then she's just
Yeah.
like, "Who do you think you are?" And like walks off
Yeah.
after like mission accomplished. That was amazing.
That was amazing.
yeah.
I just think overall, the plot holds it back a whole lot.
Oh,
does.
yeah.
It's one of those like, man, to go back in time and give this movie like a little tighter of a script, a better plot, a better
This would
song.
be one of the better ones.
This could have been like,
it's good
easily.
tops.
Yeah.
Because the action I think is there.
Yeah.
I think
Definitely.
Dalton's
Well, and-
there. Like
And it has that 80s action pedigree.
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, overall, I enjoyed it I liked it more than I remembered liking it the last time I watched it.
Yeah.
Because the last time I watched it, I feel like I was more put off by the plot. This time I'm more like, I'm appreciating the sections by themselves compared to the overall, which is not a great recommendation for a film where you're like, overall, but there's pieces.
There's great spots in here.
Like you're going into a Bond film not for this intricate, well thought out emotional
and the
plot.
thing
You're going in there
is,
for action.
The thing is, it's not so much that it's held together like, oh, the plot doesn't hold up. It's just you have these really great weighty scenes and they're just not strung like strung together with fishing line, right? Like it's just not
I really just feel like if they could have given us a little more of Koskov's like motivation.
Yeah.
If we could have gotten something right at the start before the supposed defection happens, where we know that it's fake.
I can even live with it not knowing it's fake until after the kitchen fire.
The rescue,
like
rescue.
If they immediately after that, you were like, okay, and you understand why, because so many Bond movies, they over-explain their plot, either to Bond or to someone, right? For the audience.
He's strapped to a laser table while,
like they over-explain what they're doing and why, And in this one, they don't explain hardly anything. You're just left to kind of figure out, like, okay, so it's a mixture of both. Of I guess he's going to take Pushkin's place and make money with Armstrong, was that his name?
The general?
Yeah.
Or
no, the Jodan Baker.
Yeah.
Close
that guy.
enough.
Yeah, that guy.
Military
Jodan Baker
dude.
playing himself. I think if they could have tightened that up a little bit and then maybe like trimmed a couple of scenes just a little bit, it would be a whole lot better.
Yeah.
Overall, I enjoyed it a lot more than On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
I would hope so. It has Timothy Dalton in it.
Yeah.
That's not the only reason.
It's one of the only
reasons. As far as I know, Timothy Dalton is a class act on set compared to George Lazenby.
Sounds like most people are a class act compared to George Lazenby. All right, that sounds like about all the time we got. Again, we have a very special promotion going on in January. Our first Patreon Picks episode is happening on our Patreon. So anyone supporting us at the $1 tier or higher can get in there and vote on an episode, a movie that we will cover in an episode that will be exclusive to patrons.
For a period of time.
Early
for
access.
a little bit. Early access, yeah. Get in there, $1.
Get you voting on something that we will review.
And that $1 that's not all it gets you, right? It also gets you access to all of our bonus episodes.
Yes, it does. Like, you just got done listening to a James Bond episode. What if you wanted to listen to me and Ryan almost kill each other?
Go at each other's throats.
Over opening credit rolls of James Bond movies.
Scream at each other about Bond opening credit rolls. Until next time, I'm Ryan.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Steven.
And every spoiler was intended.
The idea of like me just interjecting with just trivia about,
just random trivia.
Ding, Bond fact.
His cat was named.
It was reported by the press at the time that George Lazenby and Diana Rigg did not get along.
And then the other two of us just like, oh God, okay.
However,
you have like a soundboard just Bond fact.
Bond fact.
And you insert it later on in other episodes just randomly.
So I heard that James Cameron Bond fact.
Actually, it's not a fact about the movie. It's just a James Bond fact.
Yeah. Oh man, we need that soundboard. Bond fact.
That's the soundboard is just you record your own voice and then have it on a loop.
Bond fact. Yeah.